Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion. A poetry discussion that comes to us from Emily Dickinson, and in as much it will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, the poetry discussion playlist, but number two, the Emily Dickinson poetry discussion playlist. The poetry discussion playlist now approaching the 250 video mark, and Emily Dickinson over the 60 video mark. Now, the poem that we have today is not probably one of the most widely read Emily Dickinson poems that you will find. Probably it is one of the ones that you have to do a little digging to come across. It is titled, I Have Never Seen Volcanoes. But real quick, guys, before we get into this, if you enjoy what I do here, hitting the like button tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and I would appreciate that. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping poetry videos every Monday, talking about novels, talking about short stories, writing quotes, things like that. Those are all playlists that I have here on the channel. So if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. Now, the poem in question reads as such: I have never seen volcanoes, but when travelers tell how those old phlegmatic mountains, usually so still, bear within appalling ordnance, fire and smoke and gun, taking villages for breakfast, and appalling men, if the stillness is volcanic in the human face, when upon a pain titanic features keep their place, if at length the smoldering anguish will not overcome, and the palpitating vineyard in the dust be thrown, if some loving antiquary on resumption mourn, will not cry with joy, Pompeii, to the hills return. So this is obviously making a little bit of a link between what it is that volcanoes do and what it is that people do. Volcanoes sometimes explode. People sometimes explode. Now, here's the thing. That explosion, that, dare I say, ejaculation of emotion, need that be correlated with anger? If you were to sort of outline that you think people in volcanoes are alike with their propensity towards explosion, I think it's probably likely that you would link people exploding to anger. I think that anyone listening to you would assume that what you're talking about is coming from a place of anger. Do we have any reason to associate those things? Well, we have the reason for association coming strictly from the side of the volcano. When a volcano erupts, it is destruction that follows. At least destruction in the idea that we have of destruction, which is to decrease the level of order, decreasing those things which people have built up. Pompeii was a volcano that erupted, and it destroyed the city at the base of the mountain, or the volcano, pardon me. Inasmuch it took order and crumpled it down to chaos. That is why we associate that is why we would naturally associate the volcanic eruptions being put in line with people's explosions of emotions as a negative, as anger, because that smiting on grounds of Pompeii feels very much like the anger of God becoming whole. Something like that. But you've been there when people erupt in sadness, Probably you've done so yourself. You have been there when people erupt in joy. Probably you've done it yourself. We don't have those same connotations to positive or even sad, but not destructive emotions, despite the fact that these emotions, once they overtake us, once we are subject to their whim, once sadness breaches our defenses, once joy overcomes us, in these moments too, we devolve into chaos out of the idea that we had of order. We are no longer composed individuals. It makes me personally wonder a little bit about Emily Dickinson. I think it is the sort of common thought that Emily Dickinson was quiet and reserved. It's sort of what we get from stories of her. It's sort of what we get when we understand that she spent most of her life locked away, locking herself away. But a poem like this that calls into question the uh, validity of the idea that emotions exploding are only angry. Would Emily Dickinson have been the type to have been overcome by joy, overcome by positive emotions? One of the things that so Emily Dickinson, the time where Emily Dickinson lived, don't know her exact birth and death. Let me pull that up real quick. But this time in American history was sort of something that was. She was born in 1830, died in 1886, so almost perfectly. This was overlapping a point in American history where it was sort of the cool thing to be reserved and sad. That was sort of the cool thing. It was looked on as that's what makes you a formidable person, is that you have some sense of somberness to you. There is uh, I have a biography on Lincoln called Lincoln's Melancholy, where it talks about uh, Lincoln was described by one of his contemporaries, I believe it was on the day that he won the presidency, as literally dripping with melancholy. Now, obviously, if he was literally dripping with melancholy, this was before we had things that could take care of that over a weekend. But one of the so that would have been the cool thing at this time, would have been to be sort of reserved and morose, quiet, calm. That would have made you a preferable type of person. However, Emily Dickinson seemed to have lived her life not being one of those people. Is it in today's world that we are putting this backward spin on her that maybe she was the morose person, and that is why all of these dark, gothic type poems, that is why she was cut off from society? But maybe it is because she was so animated. Maybe it was because she was actually one of these people who was quick to emotion, either positive or negative. Either way, just the thought experiment is interesting to run. When we think of an outcast in a prior epoch, we doll up onto them those things which might make them an outcast in our time, but they are not in our time. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like what I do here, hitting the like button tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and I would appreciate that. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping poetry videos every Monday, but also novel read-alongs and short stories, as well as a little bit of writer stuff. And hey, I hope to have you back for the next one.